You know, when we think about like how often we raised the interest rates last year, I think it was 8 times or some number like that, and then how many times we lowered it and all these things that we look at. We're going to raise the rates. We're going to decrease the rates. Did you know in Japan, the first time they raised the rates was last week, and they haven't done it for 17 years.
Well, Japan.
Japan has not raised the interest rates for 17 years.
Wow.
That they've not raised their interest rates are in the negative. If you go to the next chart, Kelly, they have negative interest rates with Japan. If you can go to the next one, a couple things about Japan. They had the most incredible boom as an economy from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
2009 was killing
They
it.
had 20 consecutive growth years that was positive with what they did post-World War II. And then few numbers here that's going to freak you out. Okay, so check this out. In the 80s, Japan's property market was worth 4 times as much as U.S. property market. In the 80s.
Okay.
The Imperial Palace in Tokyo. Can you pull up a picture on Imperial Palace in Tokyo? This one is the biggest shocking data here.
This is in Japan.
This is in Japan in the 80s. This is, you and I are born. We're alive.
Yeah,
this
78.
This is Reagan era, okay?
Yeah.
The Imperial Palace in New York, in Japan, Tokyo. Imperial Palace in Tokyo. That right there was worth as much as the entire state of California.
Wait, I'm confused.
Real estate. Stay with me here.
That place.
Yes, their real estate land increased from 1956 to 86 in 30 years, 5,000%. Tokyo real estate could sell as much as $139,000 per square feet, which was 350 times the equivalent of what it was in Manhattan.
What?
So what is known as the most expensive real estate in New York? In America, Manhattan will typically come up, Palm Beach.
Yeah.
John Stewart's Tribeca duplex.
350 times in the 80s, and the land constituted 65% of their wealth. But here's the part. Their market goes all the way up to 39,000, Nikkei 225, goes to 39,000 in 1989, and then it drops down to 17,000 3 years later. You know how long it takes for their market from 89 to get back to 39,000? This week.
It just got back?
It just got back to 39,000. You know how long that is? What's 1989 to 2024? 35 years.
Oh, my God.
Wow. It took their market 35 years to get back to the same exact thing that they have today. Japan's had a challenging time for many, many years. This is the GDP. I'll skip this. This is an interesting number. If you want to go to the next one, number of registered marriages per 1,000 inhabitants in Japan from 1960 to 2022. Look at this here. They say the country that's the sexless society.
They don't hook up.
Japanese don't have sex.
I was going to go there.
Well, listen, they make great wives because in the Army, a lot of guys like to go to Fort Okinawa because guys who would come back from the military in Okinawa, they would say, Japanese wives massage your feet when you come home at night. Wow. They wash your feet. They do this. And everybody in the military is like, I need a Japanese wife. So everybody wanted to go to Okinawa.
But they don't hook up.
If we lose you to Japan temporarily, we may know what it is. Hey. But it is a sexless society, and there's a few other things we can talk about here.
Whoa.
Here's another interesting one for you. Stock market's been the same since when? 1989, right? It just recovered. You know how much their population has grown from 1990 till today? That is 34 years. How much you think their population's grown?
Net growth?
Net growth from 1990 till today. I'll give you the number. 1990, that 124,500,000. Where are they at today? 34 years later.
You're saying it's up. You're saying it's
I'm not giving you, all I'm saying to you, everybody is up. I mean, it's weird for you not to be up.
400 million.
From 124 million. You're saying they're not 400 million.
Yeah.
What do you think they're at? What do you think they're at? I'm actually curious.
I'm thinking really low, like 200,000.
So you're
at 200 million.
Oh wait, so they're at 200 million now. Yeah. What do you think they're at, Rob?
175 million.
What do you think they're at?
Say they hit 210.
Can you go to the slide, please? They're the same. They're down 200,000.
They're down 200,000?
In 34 years, Japan is down 200,000 people.
I see this as they're getting old, right?
They're not getting married. They're not having sex. Their population is not growing. And then if you look at this chart here with Japan, go to the next one on the fact that the male and the female, you don't want this chart because it shows your biggest sector of people. If you look at what this means is which age category do you have the most people of population-wise?
Okay.
At the bottom, the lowest one you see, you don't see the picture close to us, it's ages 0 to 4.
Okay.
Then the next one is 5 to 9. Then the next one is 10 to 14 years old, 15, 19, 20, 24, all that stuff. Do you see the one that's the furthest one to the left?
Japan,
That's
it's
40.
75 and 90.
That's 45 to 49, and all the way to the top, 70 to 74. Their second biggest population they have
is old
is
people.
70, 74.
Wow.
Of course they're not having sex.
Wow.
Of course they're not making babies. And of course they are going through what they're going through. And you know who looks like this as well? Show the next one if you could. This is China. Identical. So as much as people talk
China's
about
on the right.
what's going on with China and how awesome they are, they got a lot of problems to solve because they had the one-child policy, and it was pretty crazy. If you can make that recommendation on that book, Hypomanic Edge.
Oh, it's that
A
book?
friend of mine many years ago recommended this book, a guy named Byron Udell. It says the link between a lot of craziness and a lot of success in America.
Okay.
And by the way, Hypomanic Edge, they give the profile of people that were bipolar, that were ADHD, that were manic, that were, all of this stuff. They end up winning the most. They're always a little bit weird that you look at them. Watch this. It says Americans are 5% of the world population, but represent 30% of the economic activity. Abundance of people with hypomanic tendencies prepared to take enormous risks. So the key word is what? Risk. They're willing to take the risks, right? Immigrants are more likely to be hypomanic, which means they're willing to take risks because they're like, dude, if you know my life, I was giving diapers to police officers. And the story he's saying, you're like, you're just visualizing cops wearing diapers, walking around. You're arrested. You're like, bro, go wipe your ass, before you arrest me. Okay? Less shame. Very interesting. Less shame in America with bankruptcy. And we bounce back after bankruptcies, not in Japan. They asked the question, when asked if starting a new business was a respected occupation, Americans, 91% said yes. Japanese, 8% said yes.
What?
Yes. Deep disgrace attached to business failure in Japan. Population has lost all inclination towards risk after the market crash of 1990s. What does this tell you? Optimism is a very, very valuable asset. Hope, the first thing Hitler went after when he wanted to take over and, get control of his people. He got rid of religion. If you look at what he came up with, I think it's called the Church of Christian Positivity or something like that. You ever heard of this one before or no?
I haven't.
Can you type in Hitler church positivity? Hitler church positivity. So he wanted to get rid of God. He didn't want you to believe in God. He didn't want you to be, you'll see it there. It should come up as the Wikipedia if you zoom in so you can see it. It'll show one of them.
What? Positive Christianity.
Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Yeah, positive Christianity. This is the angle he took it, but he wanted no faith. He wanted no hope. He wanted none of that stuff because if there's no faith, if there's no hope, if you're afraid of taking a risk and you can't be coming back, he's not going to have to worry about anybody revolting against them, and you got to steal hope. The one thing with Americans, look at all the crazy shit that's going on in America right now. What the hell is making America continue? Because we're an optimistic country. We're hopeful. We're positive for the most part. So we just have to make sure they don't take that away from us like they did in Japan.
100%. And seeing it from a foreign perspective, like I grew up between South America and the Middle East. There's something that I don't think you can notice. Like there's a bankruptcy culture here. Like you can go like in South America and the Middle East in general. If you go bankrupt, you're done forever. Same thing maybe in Japan and whatever. Like you don't get a second chance. Like if you fail at your business, your friends will stop talking to you. Your family will. You don't like for example Donald Trump. He's been bankrupt like a few times and he bounces back. That's American story. And I think what you're saying about people here being fearless and having a positive angle on it is super interesting. Like some people are too optimistic. The guys from Gatorade, they're out of control. Out of control.
Out of where?
They're the guys that make Gatorade. They're out of control. They spend like since the 85, they spent years telling us that Gatorade is the best way to hydrate, and now they're making water again.
Yeah.
They went full circle.
Yeah,
like that's
sugar.
that's American spirit. You
Yeah.
know, you sell them drinks all the time, and then you make water for them.
Yeah.
Well, think about what the American spirit is going back to its founding. The people who came here originally were the risk takers, were the people who said, yeah, I believe there's something over the horizon that we can go get. It's not just open ocean. We're not going to fall off the edge of the world. We're not going to die at sea. We're going to find something better over there. And they came and built it. That's sort of what the entire country has been about from the very beginning. And now there is an effort to erode that hope. Like Patrick mentioned, look at governments like Hitler, like communism, like all these other things. They are trying to erode faith. They're trying to erode hope. And it's discouraging the population to make sure that we can't continue in the way we have done before.
Have you guys noticed how much Joe Rogan recently has been having people talking about God?
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed? That's a very weird thing.
Have you noticed that
Well, God
maybe
and stuff.
before it was a little bit more like, come on, man, God and all this stuff. Now it's a little bit more of, hey, maybe there's an element with this. Maybe there's something we have to pay attention to with faith. Maybe there's a benefit to a society that believes everything's going to work itself out. I think we just can't let that happen to us. In life, if you think about in life, who are more optimistic people, who are more pessimistic? Older, middle-aged, or younger? Who's more optimistic?
Optimism from the young.
Younger.
Yeah.
Pessimism is what? Older.
Yeah. it's like
Why?
change.
A couple of our Syrian guys that are with us that we'll be announcing here soon. They go to Walmart and they're walking around and they find this. I wish I had this video to show you guys. So emotional. They found this lady and they said, "How are you, ma'am?" "Good." "So, where are you from?" "Bah, bah, 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 bah." "Tell me about your family." And she says, "Well, I'm 95 years old. I am the only one remaining in my family. It is the most difficult thing to do because my kids have died. My husband has died. I don't want to go through those pains, but I've gone through it." Okay? So imagine you're so old now that you watch your own kids die.
Jeez.
Think about that. She's saying this, right? And she's like, maybe that's God's way of punishment. I don't know. It's very painful. But you know what? I still drive my car. I still do this. I still do this. And then she goes outside and she says, "It's also my birthday today, but I don't have anybody to celebrate it with."
Oh, man.
Okay? Anyways, these guys are like, "You got to be kidding me." They run out. They go get balloons. They go get cakes. She's going to her car. They walk up to her and they give her a cake and they put the hat on her head and they start singing "Happy Birthday" to you, and they say, "Hey, we just want to say we love you." This is, and she's getting emotional. Like, I cannot believe nobody's doing that to me, right? The longer you live, the more shit you're going to experience. It's just kind of how life is. When you were 13 years old, you're like, "I'm going to marry the first girl I kiss." And then you kiss her and then she kisses your best friend. And you're like, dude,
It hurts.
so the
It
same
hurts.
day,
It hurts.
you lost a friend and a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And you're like, life sucks. Screw this shit. And then gradually more of that. You get bullied, you get punched, you get made fun of, you're ugly, you're this, you're fat, you're dumb, you're this. Oh my God. And then your skin gets thicker and you get a little bit, and then you lose that twinkle, and then you lose that hope, and then you lose that positivity, and then you lose that optimism, and then you join the bitter camp. And once you join the bitter camp, that's not optimistic. Life is miserable from there on. So we have to constantly, no matter how hard life gets, not allow that to change us, because if it does, future doesn't look bright for that specific individual.
Exactly. And go ahead, Rob, please.
What I see it in my 4-year-old. Just that love of everything's awesome.
Yeah.
And I miss being that age because I forget how everything can be. But it makes you also go, oh, everything is awesome. He is terrified of shots. He's
I'm on the
4. Who
same
likes
boat.
getting shots? I'm 37. I hate getting shots.
Yeah.
My wife calls me today and she goes, we took him to the doctor. She didn't tell him before that he was getting a shot. He got in there. He was a little nervous at first. Doctor made him laugh. Doctor gave him the shot. In the backseat of the car, my son goes, "Daddy, I love shots." And I went, see, he loves everything. So that age, 4, they love everything.
That's cool.
But 14, he's starting to go through that. So it's interesting. Like, he's dealing with heartbreak. He's got the first crush of a girl that he likes, but Stephanie likes Philip. And he's like, I don't know what to do because I'm not Philip. So you know what he started doing, though? And it's great. Put him in jiu-jitsu, and it made him start losing weight, getting it's actually, I'm watching it build him into a man, because it's teaching him, discipline that he can get from outside the home. He respects me. He respects his elders. He's a very respectful young man. But it took someone from the outside to come in and have that influence on his life where he's like, hey, you could be the greatest jiu-jitsu person in the world. You don't know, but try it.
Yeah.
And like now he's at the point where first couple months didn't want to go. We'd force him to go. I'm paying for it. You're going. Now it's been 3 months and it's like, Dad, I want to go tonight. Can I go tonight? Can I go to the early class? Can I go to both classes? And I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. So it's refreshing to have kids. Have them, boys, because you get to see that optimism all the time.
You almost don't have a choice.
No, it's because there's days where I'll come home and I'm tired of sitting in traffic for an hour and a half. I'm exhausted. I walk in the door and I'm bummed out. And the 4-year-old runs up, Daddy, and I go, okay. And
that's what I was going to say. Think about what having kids did to you as a person, the way it shaped who you are.
Yes.
The fact that you have these 2 children now. My sister-in-law right now is in labor with the first next generation of my family.
Right now?
Right now.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So
You want to FaceTime? We can.
I'm sure she's not feeling too hot right now, but
No, I'm sure she's feeling hot.
yeah, it's
Your
the
body will
fact
get
that
hot.
my family is growing, and this is a thing that, like you showed the numbers, Patrick. Japan is declining, China is declining. We are forgetting that basically the whole purpose of us existing is to make more children.
What a great
is to create another generation that we instill with our values, instill with that hope, and further our society, further the planet and the human race.
I was young when I had my first son. Right? I was 22 because he's 14. I got a 4-year-old, so there's a big age gap. What's cool is I got to experience it young, so I was young with him. We kind of grew up together in a weird way. But now I'm watching my friends have their first children, and it's so exciting to see it change these guys who, I mean, some of them were derelicts. They were just like, my one friend was a male stripper. The stories that he could tell. And then guess what he has?
Those are
A
real?
daughter. And now all of a sudden he's changed completely. And I go, buddy, you're going to get it back in spades. What you put out in the universe is coming back your way. But it's interesting to watch that flip in my friends as well. Kids are an amazing thing to have.
The command from God to be fruitful and multiply was for your benefit as well as the next generation. And when societies forget that is when things start to fall apart.
The thing is that in general, female writers, 30-something, the train has left the station. They meet the bulk of the lifestyle writers,
Writer?
Yeah, the people that write on OK Magazine and
Oh,
everything.
okay. Female writer.
Yeah, female writers. And they make it look like having a kid is a burden and it will ruin your life, it will ruin your career.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so funny how you say that because, I never been a jealous person. Never. Growing up in Dubai, I was even though my parents were doing pretty well, I was the poorest kid in the class all the time.
Obviously.
Because they
not oil money.
It's not oil money. The twins will show up with matching Ferraris. There's nothing I can do about it. So I can learn how to live without jealousy, whatever. But for the first time, I've been catching myself with kid jealousy. Like my best friend just had a kid. I'm like, damn, I can't wait for them.
Which is a thing a man is not supposed to have in the United States.
Yeah, it's weird. What do you mean?
You're not supposed to be
It's the thing
jealous
I
of
want the
kids
most.
when you're
Yeah,
when you're living
by the
here.
way, first of all, I love you, Pat, because I get to play with his kid, bro. It's like not only do I love them and I adore them, it's training for me because
I seen it.
Oh, Brooklyn screams. Brooklyn is. Oh, Vinny! I'm like, what? She's like, I need you, like ordering me from another room. I mean, and you guys, I agree 100%. And it's like, I'm on the market, obviously. But I think one of the biggest fears for me, my mother, you know my mom, she's a saint from God. Every time I see her, when I talk to her, when I hang out with her, I get emotional. That's how much I adore and I love my mom. But there's this little fear in me, Pat, because I was the craziest kid. Like, I'm telling you guys are all crazy. It doesn't compare to this. I don't know where I think we were in church. I did something. I'll never forget these moments. My mom would grab me and be like, Vinny, come here. And I'd be like, she's like, and while we're in church, she's like, I'm dead serious. She goes, I pray, and she's saying this in Syrian, to Allah, I pray to God every single day that when you have a kid, it does to you what you're doing to me. And even the
they
priest.
do.
And by the way, and that little seed has been living in me. Every time I'm with a girl, I'm like, whoa, hey, because God loves her, and that's what I'm gonna get. But I am I'm 100%. So when I hear you talk, when I see his face with the kids there, when he sees his daughter, trust me, and you better start moving soon too.
As soon as I'm settle here, that's the first thing I'm gonna do.
And one thing I have seen, my parents were away from us. We lived in Cleveland, Ohio for 5 years when my son was from the time he was born to 5. Then we moved to Florida for 5 years. So their interactions with him were, you know, like Christmas, Easter, and then they moved to Vero, and so we see them if not every weekend, every other weekend, and it gives my parents not just hope, but it gives them energy. Like, my dad's a very energetic guy. He's in his 70s, but he still surfs. And he does. But my mom has been a stay-at-home mom for 40 years. It gives her the energy to go do things. It gives them purpose. So it really is. It's the effect that kids not just have on the immediate people, the parents, the extending family. My aunt has 2 daughters. Both of them are lesbians. They're never going to have kids.
Yeah.
She treats my children like they're her grandchildren,
Yeah.
and it gives her hope. So it's amazing to see how these little kids who are 4 running around, snot and boogers all over the place, they have no idea the impact that they make on people's lives. But it's very, very special.
You know, it's funny you say that. Is my parents from July of '89, they were not in the same room at all. If they were, somebody in Germany would be resurrected. They couldn't be, and we don't want that, right? We don't want
of
that
course
because
not.
it's a bad situation.
Yeah, of course.
The first time they agreed to be in the same room is when my niece was born.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Grace was born.
Wow.
Yeah. When Grace was born, I want to say it was 08 when she was born. So you go 1989 to 08. How many years is that? 19 years.
19.
First time they agreed to be in the same room is because of Grace.
And how was it? How was the moment?
They don't have a choice.
Like, you're here. Here we
You
go.
don't have a choice. It's your first grandchild.
Wow.
So the grandchild, it puts everyone's guard down.
Oh.
It's pure love.
Yeah.
It's life. It's a beautiful thing.
Second time I've ever seen my father cry. First time our dog, long time that we had for like 15 years, had to put down. I was 12. I'll never forget. It's weird to see your father cry because you look up, you're like, you're powerful. I've never seen this before. And then the second time was when my son was born, and I've like bawling like a baby, both of us.
Yeah.
So even to this day, it's like, it's very funny. The older he gets, the more often that happens now. Like. You know, when we lived apart, every time he'd say goodbye, he'd start to get teary-eyed. I'd go, don't do it.
Yeah.
And he'd start, and I go, no, because you're going to make me. Now we're both. But it's so great that now he's here, and I'm like, now we see each other. I'm like, I'll see you next weekend.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's a beautiful thing. I think, dude, like, the emotional, and Kelly knows this, I get, like, because my life has gone a complete because of this man. I'm in church, and I just, like, I'm crying, and she's like, it's okay, for no reason. And it's not that I'm mad or I'm sad. I'm so happy and so overwhelmed because when I came here and you would say the future looked bright, I'm going to be honest with you. I was like, yeah, I wasn't optimistic. I wasn't bitter, but I was like, but the more I'm listening, the more I'm here, Pat, the more I'm around the culture, the more I'm listening to words from everybody, I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, do believe it. And you have to be optimistic. You have to be happy. And if we don't fight and stand up and have that attitude for this country, we are doomed. We are doomed. So I want to say, Pat, and all you guys, I love you to death. Thank you, Pat, for every single thing you've done for me, for all of us. We're in this place because of you. There's no words before I get choked up, but I love you like a brother. Thank you. Everybody that's watching, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe right now to Value Entertainment. Click the notification link.